It has been months, and I repeat, months, since my last video on Eden Zero. The last time I made a video on Eden Zero, it was about how the final arc is going to set us up to be emotionally destroyed, and I still stand by that, and for the most part, all my predictions have been true. It feels great to be verified sometimes when it comes to a theory for a series, because 9 times out of 10, you are going to be completely and utterly wrong. That is how most One Piece fans feel, by the way. But right now, Eden Zero is really gearing up for something good. I have enjoyed this final arc with its setup, how things are being placed together, and getting the necessary pieces put together without rushing the main story, as more new pieces of information are being built up, with more characters being introduced as well as characters returning. But I'll get into my general thoughts on everything that's gone on in the final arc so far when we get into the actual video. But before we do, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really does help, and it shows you guys like the Eden Zero content I make on the channel, and really makes me want to do more. Without further ado, let's hit that intro and get right into the video. Now, first off, let me just state this. The idea of the Eden Zero crew going to different planets that they've been to before in order to meet the characters that they needed to meet was honestly a really nice thing to do, and how Universe Zero was slightly different in small and even major ways, as it is supposed to be a happy world where everyone basically got what they wanted. In order of events, Shiki and Rebecca reunite and instantly get their memories back, while repurposing the beginning of Chapter 1, revealing that in this world, Ziggy just passed away, and the Eden Zero ship was on Grambel the entire time. There was no need for Ziggy to hide it with Elsie, and Elsie actually is not a pirate empress and a member of the Irrational States Galactica in this universe, and potentially, she had no real reason to leave, as there was no civil war in this world, so she's probably a queen right now. And the best part is, Witch is back in the story. Not the witch that sacrificed her life in Universe 3, but a whole new witch, which is essentially the exact same personality, but with none of the memories, experience, and bonds that we had with originally. But it's still really nice to see this character again, as it was like basically almost a full year since her sacrifice that it really made me happy to see her again. Tears welled up in my eyes, and Mashima knew what he was doing, building up to her return. And I just like how Witch is trying to process all the information that they are in Universe Zero. Shiki and Rebecca got memories from a previous world, and now they have to come back to it. They get Wise and Pino, as Pino was still sent over to basically Norma to talk to Wise and get repairs by Ziggy, but then got sent there because of, well, chronophages. Chronophages still exist in Universe Zero, and thus we got 50 years ago Wise here. But Wise is living with his mom. His mom's alive, and that was just so sweet. When Wise and Pino got their memories back, Wise just went up and hugged his mom, because in his perspective, he hadn't seen her in years. She was dead, and now being flooded with memories of that old world, stitched together with the memories of the previous one, all those emotions just boiled over, and it was just so gratifying to see. We then move on to Gilst, of all places, because we have to go find Sister, and she was potentially, well, locked up in the last world, but it's revealed in this one, she is a resistance to Dragon Joe in this one with an army of Moskois. So, that was funny, and in this one, Homura's there and mentally scarred. So yeah, that really made me think, Homura is gonna suffer no matter where she is. I mean, there is a thread on Twitter that actually perfectly breaks down Homura's whole arc in general with her character, which is honestly really well put. I cannot find it anywhere, but it helps with the purpose of the story for Homura, and even gives us insight as to Valkyrie did die in this universe as well. We also get to see that Dragon Joe is still in Beliogoer, but it's still part of Gilst in this universe, because Chronophage did not come and attack just yet, as they arrived on Gilst relatively before that thing showed up. Jin and Clean are there, members of the Element 4, and they fight Sister off screen. They get their memories back, wish we could have seen that, but it is what it is. I don't mind it. We get some nice element for rematches for Wise and Rebecca. Rebecca takes on that torture tree guy. She ends up trying to use her overdrive, but due to the fact to something really clever that is done in the final arc, they came back with all of their powers, ether, and abilities from 3 years in the future into younger bodies. But because of all that power, they actually cannot fully utilize and control their abilities to their maximum potential, and that is screwing them up and honestly putting them in a lot more danger than they should. Shown earlier as Shiki was still unable to fully control his wormhole abilities at the start. Wise then goes and fights the fire elemental Phi, I think it's his name, with a prototype Arsenal suit, showing that, yeah, Wise can do a good amount of work on his own, but without Hermit, Arsenal is not complete. And which ended up going to Digitalis based on the information that she was given by Shiki and the rest from the previous world to go find Hermit. In this world, Hermit really did not suffer, which made me very, very, very happy, because Hermit is a character that you should not hurt under any circumstances, and she must be protected at all costs. Am I making it obvious that Hermit is one of my favorite Shining Star members at this point? Anyway, she ends up guiding Wise, and we get a really nice moment where Wise uses Machina Maker to make a giant ass hand to just slap down Phi after Hermit distracts him. And I was told by a friend that this is actually the exact same arm in Universe 1 that was cut off by Phi and Dragon Joe when they lost to Dragon Joe in their first introductions before Rebecca unlocked Cat Leaper. So it was a nice callback and a nice piece of catharsis for Weiss, even though he doesn't have memories of that moment. Shiki actually ends up fighting Poseidon Nero, one of the bigger twists in this section of the story, because Nero isn't the emperor of the Aoi Cosmos. He is working with Draken as a member of the Element 4. Still has the same powers, and he's still pretty strong. But as he fights Shiki, he then uses his dice, which dictates that he kind of give a pseudo-mentor figure role for Shiki, noticing that Shiki's ether is all over the place and giving him some advice on how to maximize his overdrive to an extent that it matches the body and power that he should have at this moment, which gives Shiki the idea and power to achieve a new overdrive state, which is called Root Ziggy, giving Shiki another overdrive form. And this way opens up the door for everyone else in the main crew to have different overdrive forms than the ones that they had when they traveled back in time, which makes things very cool and interesting, because we could literally have characters with their powers from the future be adjusted to their bodies to have a different overdrive form to make things more interesting. And thing is, overdrive is not exclusive to Shiki, and everyone has their own overdrive forms. We haven't seen Laguna's, but that is what it is. But we can at least get one new overdrive form for the rest of the human characters on the Eden Zero, which make things very interesting and more, I'm just gonna say, fun with this new transformations. But after taking down Nero, Shiki comes face to face with Draken, prepared to fight him. But Shiki then comes to the realization that he can actually be friends with Draken. He doesn't really need to take him down. And to an extent, Shiki doesn't really need to fight Draken. Now, at first, I was confused by this, because Shiki wanting to be friends with Draken, and even Shura, of all people, threw me for a loop for a second. Until this is Shiki's character in a nutshell. The man loves making friends. It's a core part of his ideals and character, so it makes sense that in this new world where things can potentially be better for everyone, he would want to make friends with these characters and, want them to not be evil. Shiki actually doesn't end up fighting Draken in this section for a rematch, and instead talks to Draken. We get a nice banter between Draken and Nero, and Shiki basically confirms Draken's past. Because remember, when he fought Draken in the fight where he unlocked his overdrive, he managed to make some of Draken's memories fall to him, and he knows Draken's past on how he wanted to get stronger, learned his alchemy, gain his ether gear so that he can go out, make things better, and even make friends along the way. And somewhere in Universe 1 and 2, it ended up getting twisted beyond belief into the more ruthless Kingpin that we saw at the beginning of Eden Zero. But in this one, Draken is, by and large, a better person. He's not free from sin, but how he sustains his youth is actually not by stealing from humans. He steals it to an extent from other animals and living creatures, but not to the point of death. And he even takes the responsibility that he has right now as basically a kingpin to more or less balance out the universe. He knows that that when there's good, there's got to be evil, so you got to have justified evil in the world in order to keep things balanced out. Now, you might recognize this type of theming from Cure in the previous arc in the Kade War, and Dragon's just a much better philosophy than Cure, and it actually feels a lot more meaningful coming from Draken, who is someone that has known a lot about this stuff, and we've known Draken a lot more. In the end, Draken just lets them leave, especially after giving him the information that a chronophage is on the way and that they should evacuate everyone on the planet. And the door is open for Draken to appear again in this arc, potentially as an ally. For all we know, and I wouldn't mind it all too much. I was bummed that we didn't get like a rematch so that Shiki could eventually just tell Draken they're going to be friends. Shiki comes out of it being like, yeah, we're friends, but Draken's like, get the hell out of here, kid. But yeah, that section, relatively quick, nothing too major in terms of character deaths, and I kind of like the direction we got Draken in, as he's basically an anti-hero in this world for the most part. And it's done in a really nice and believable way for what we already knew from Draken's character, and he's not drastically different. As we go on, we end up going to Sun Jewel, where Homura reunites with her mother, and sees that in this version, Kurenai is not the ruler of Sun Jewel, and is not, ruthless and twisted, but she is actually a defender, and she's been through a lot in this world, and she didn't want to make Homura suffer when she would come back, because she wanted to pay off the debts to some scumbag that she ended up getting together with on Sun Jewel, and she fought all these monsters. Eden Zero Crew fights the monsters off, Homura struggling to get her confidence back because she was abandoned, and she basically saw her teacher die, quote, die, because of her own mistake, and blames herself. Then, Valkyrie appears to save Homura, and in that instance, Homura not only gets all of her memories back, which is something that I kind of mentioned or predicted in my previous Eden Zero video, which was really cool, but the thing I kind of liked about the Valkyrie reveal that she was actually alive is the fact that you shouldn't assume that a robot is going to die from getting decapitated. She was literally put back together by Seiji, and then Homura just left out of nowhere, and Valkyrie just stayed on Sun Jewel, assuming that Homura would eventually get there. It took her a while, but hey, they're reunited. And this basically ends off with the Four Shining Stars coming all together, and Homura reconciling with her mother. Homura's got two loving moms now, which is something that I was not expecting. But hey, redemption arcs, perfectly fine. New and different character, I really don't mind. And this section of the story where this video is being recorded off of, we get everyone together, the main Eden Zero crew minus Laguna. We actually have all four OG Shining Stars together, talking, interacting, strategizing. It's really, really fun. And in this section of the story, we actually learn that the Edens 1 managed to create its own body. A new body that was somewhat stronger than, well, Ziggy's. Yeah, the Edens 1 does have its own body, as it's stated as Over New Etherion Void, or just One Void. The design is actually really cool and reminds you of Margir from Fairy Tail, but it's also revealed that Pino actually has a bigger purpose than when she basically broke Ziggy out of mind control in the previous arc, and that was, she has the shutdown code for Edens 1. Her initial design was to just destroy the Edens 1. That was her main objective when Ziggy created her. And things are also made incredibly worse with the fact that One Void now actually has an infinite energy source like the Eden Zero, which makes him even more powerful and terrifying. We also get some really cool pieces of information about the Irrational Space Galactica in this world. God Agnuella is still a member of the Galactica in this universe. Cure is stated as dead and Cure in this universe, so his whole thing about being a villain doesn't seem like he's playing both sides at this point and, trying to mastermind things in the background. And finally, Master Zenolith is part of the Irrational Space Galactica, which is the biggest shock out there because Zenolith in the original timeline was just lying low on Foresta, and now he's all of a sudden a member of the Galactica, and apparently the members of the Irrational Space Galactica are directly under One Void now, which makes them even more dangerous. And apparently there are 3 new members of the Galactica that we don't know of: Joker Helix, Lightning Law, and Lady Freya. And apparently, Valkyrie knows of Lady Freya, as she is someone that's mastered all forms of weaponry. Weapons master, a legendary swordswoman, making this version of the Galactica potentially the most dangerous. Not to mention, all 4 Dark Stars are back, as I predicted as well, because you're not going to have a final battle without getting the 4 Dark Stars back together. Clown, Killer, Wizard, and also Brigand. And we actually see Brigand's face, which is something really cool. But yeah, that was basically the setup for everything, until the most recent chapter of Eden Zero that I actually managed to read right before recording this video with some new pieces of information that I was not privy to. Chapter 237 of Eden Zero not only gives us the fact that apparently Laguna regained his memories long beforehand, and apparently Shura is the Emperor, but apparently the Empire of the Aoi Cosmos is not causing any trouble because of One Void, but also because of Master Zenolith. Zenolith used his gravity powers to completely destroy a planet, and that planet was Foresta. Building up that maybe Zenolith is going to be a villain in this arc, and that Shiki is going to have to fight him. I look forward to that fight, because Shiki has more or less come full circle as a character, and accepted everything about himself and the future potential that happened with Ziggy, gained a new ethered form, and the whole crew comes together. They get Laguna back on the crew, and everything's being set up to fight One Void, the Dark Stars, and the 6 members of the Galactica. So it seems like everybody's going to be seemingly have an opponent in this final arc. Now, these other 3 members of the Galactica I'm very unsure of, as we don't get character designs, but there's always the possibility that it's characters that we've seen before, potentially, just repurposed as Galactica members, or we're just going to have entirely brand new characters to introduce us to for the Galactica, which I'm all for. This final arc is shaping up to be really cool. One massive final war, final battle for the Eden Zero crew to save the entirety of reality and manage to save the future. And I am all in for this. I'm loving what we're getting right now. The Zenolith portion is something that I'm very interested to see, and I want to see what a battle between these two could look like, because we haven't really seen Zenolith fight. And he trained Shiki and the rest in Universe 2, so I'm curious to see what is going to happen with Zenolith for the rest of the story, and how things are going to happen to unfold with One Void and every other antagonist of course we're going to see. But yeah, those are just my long-winded thoughts on everything that's happened in the final arc so far, and everything that's happened. I'm enjoying it. These last stretch of chapters, ever since the arc began, have been nothing short of just amazing. I haven't had any problems with anything that's happened so far. I like the direction the story's going. And once again, I will state, we are definitely going to get hurt emotionally at some point in this arc, even more. And I doubt things are going to be 100% a happy ending. But it's Majima, so you never have any idea what he's going to do with his story. But we do know that this is going to be one epic battle, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. But what did you guys think? What do you think of the final arc so far in Eden Zero? How do you think things are playing out? What are your thoughts on the Irrational States being members of One Void's army? Who do you think the new 3 members are, if they are characters that we've seen before? What do you think is up with Zenolith and his whole spiel with One Void, even though he is somewhat not falling under him with like the rest of the Galactica, but he's being set up as a villain? And how do you think the Eden Zero crew is going to react to everything that's going to happen, and how they're going to fight? Also, really quick, do you think Shiki is actually going to give Shura a change of heart and make him a friend? I feel like that is going to happen, but what do you guys think about all that? Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section down below, and if you haven't already, like and subscribe once more, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really does help, and it shows you guys like Eden Zero and want me to keep doing Eden Zero content as well. I want to keep doing videos like this every month or so for Eden Zero with new updates on everything that's happening, because I love the series so much, and I can't do chapter reviews for it at the moment, but I do want to return to the chapter reviews at some point. But yeah, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you all have an awesome day.